Hey everybody, it's Kat and Steve with the Positively Midwest podcast.
Before we get started, we're going to help pay some bills.
We have hooked up with Anchor.fm to help us keep launching Positively Midwest to as many ears as possible. The more we expand our reach, the more lives we can help inspire.
If you haven't heard of Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast, and it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, and many, many more.
You can make money with no minimum listenership.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
Download the free Anchor app or go to anchorapp.fm to get started.
Now, sit back and enjoy the next episode of Positively Midwest Podcast. Hey everybody, and welcome to Positively Midwest. I'm Steve Jerns, and across from me as always is my lovely wife, Catherine.
Well, hello there.
And holy smokes, America, globe, world. This is episode number 50, our 50th episode of Positively Midwest. I never thought that we'd be where we are today, and the little bit of following that we have. We got the group almost 1,700, and our like page is over 500, and we're just having a lot of fun.
It's been a fantastic year.
Yeah, so we've changed our intro and outro music thanks to John Wayne and the Pain for allowing us to steal your tunage. Check them out on the web, of course. Great modern reggae band. We have our beautiful island theme reggae background music, no copyright intended.
All about the easy listening.
So episode 50 is fantastic. I'm excited. This is the longest intro we've ever had, but I'm super pumped for number 50. We've got Liz Priestley, and she's in a movie that's coming out soon on Netflix. Yeah, she's in a movie.
Woo!
And it's Concrete Cowboys. And Liz, would you like to say hi to all these fancy listeners?
Hi, all you fancy listeners. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me, you guys.
Well, thank you for joining us. I know you've probably done a few podcasts recently, and to squeeze us into your schedule means a lot.
No worries. I'm new to the podcast thing. This is really fun. I'm like, I want to start a podcast. I'm under no illusions that what you guys do is easy, because now that I've talked to people who are doing it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a lot of work that goes into it. But you guys always seem like you're having such a good time. I'm like, this is awesome. I want to try.
Well, we're just husband and wife. We've been together since we were in high school, and we're now on.
Oh my gosh!
It makes us sound really old when we say that we've been together for 20 years.
Yeah, altogether 20 years.
Oh my gosh, you guys! Oh, I'm just gonna talk about you guys for an hour. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Do people do that a lot when you tell them? Are they like, oh?
It's either that or really?
For that long.
Wow. It can go either way. So Steven had this idea to start this podcast. January, he started our Facebook group where we wanted to start spreading more positivity, putting it more into social media, wanting to, overwrite not only our news feeds, but also our minds with the negativity that becomes like our minds become, just always bogged down in, and so easy to get sucked into that rabbit's hole. And so he started this and he goes, I really want to do this as a podcast. So not only to tell our story and give tips along the way of marriage and parenting, life, work, etc., but start interviewing those that have had some amazing stories that they've gone through, and their insight and their wisdom that they can also share a perspective with everybody.
I love that. I really love that. It's like you guys are coming from such a wonderful, positive place, and like you said, there's enough negativity out there. So it's really nice that you guys are coming from a place of let's bring some joy into this world. That's really cool. I like that.
Thank you. And we appreciate, how people do this in their own way. And, with this movie you have coming out, this is kind of your film debut, but you are also an accomplished stage performer, and you've been in over 25 theater productions in Philadelphia, New York, and Washington, D.C. Now, what really I think is cool, everything that you do is cool on your bio here, but violinist and pianist.
And Like, do you sing opera? Did I hear that on one of those podcasts? Or was that a joke?
Yes. No, that's absolutely true. I'm a, it's so ironic because, I am making my film debut, and, the acting thing for me has been a passion since I was a kid. But most people here in my hometown and, like, where I grew up and everything, like, they don't know me really as an actor. So this is, like, shocking for them because the majority of people know me as a musician in general, but specifically as an opera singer. And so they're just like, it's like how what you said, you either get the reaction when you tell people you've been together 20 years, you either get the, oh, or you get the really. I get, when I tell people I'm an actor, I get, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Or I get, that's nice. Are you singing these days? Are you still singing these days? And I'm like, no, not really.
that
but
must.
Yes, that's true.
That's crazy. How do you still play violin and piano?
I do, and I'm so excited because actually one of the things I'm working on right now, I have a couple web things coming out, and I'm shooting one this coming Sunday, and the director literally just said to me yesterday, he calls me up and he goes, hey, so, I know you play instruments. Do you think you could throw a little something together for, some credits, music? And I'm like, yeah? What did you have in mind? He's like, I don't know, a little violin, maybe a little cello, whatever you got laying around. I was like, yeah, sure, let me just throw all that together in a day. Sure. But I probably will. I started playing violin when I was 4, and I've kept it up. I don't take lessons anymore. I stopped taking lessons around like 18-ish. But I still play. And then I play piano. And then in the mix, I sort of picked up viola and cello, just for fun. And then, I sing as well. So do a little bit of everything.
Just for fun.
That I can.
Just for fun. We're going to throw in a few extra instruments just for fun.
Well, I have 5 sisters, and we all play instruments. We all had to learn. And so, while I was on violin, I had a sister that was doing cello, and I had another one that was doing viola. So they would, when they were kind of elsewhere, I would just sort of pick up their instruments and just give it a whirl and be like, I wonder, similar. They're similar, constructs. It's just the bigger the instrument, the larger the strings. But the way to play it is basically the same. So if you play one, you can pretty much figure out the others. So I don't know. It might not be as impressive as it sounds, but I just kind of through the years was like, oh yeah, that viola, I know how to do that. Okay, I could do that. It gets tricky when you have to read music though, because then like the violin's written in one class, but the cello's written in a different one, and the viola's written in a different one. So that's 3 different ways you got to learn to read music. So that's when it gets tricky. But yeah, did I scramble your brains yet? Did I throw enough at you?
You threw me back to the days of playing clarinet, and I couldn't even pick up one of those anymore and try to remember how to do any of it. So you just blew my mind.
Well, when I was studying opera, I won a scholarship actually to study. And part of my scholarship requirements were I had to take music theory. And I have probably had maybe like 15 years of music theory altogether. I could probably teach it at this point. I just haven't. But so all that stuff I've had to study in depth. And it's all fascinating to me. It's very interesting, but it's also, to some people I know it can be kind of boring. So
No, I think it's awesome that there's someone so passionate behind the education of music. I've been a music buff, if you will, but the education and knowing, a lot about it and the notes and everything, that stuff I don't know, but I could pick up a guitar or go to a piano and kind of put something together that sounds like something if you're not already a musician. But so let me throw you off guard for a second with all of your knowledge and your background and education. What's one of the favorite bands that you're listening to right now?
Oh man. So I have that's like really unfair because I love music and we're such a musical family. But the first one that came to mind, I'll say this, is because I also teach acting, and I'm taking my students through like a crash course of the history of film. And we were just talking about Busby Berkeley the other day, and I was showing them a clip from some, Busby Berkeley musicals, which are, these wonderfully visual, kind of like kaleidoscope images from like the 30s or whatever. And then I happened to be on YouTube a couple days ago, and I was looking at music videos for the band OK Go, and they're the ones, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but years ago they had the video that it was like the four of them on treadmills, and they were all dancing on treadmills.
Yep.
And it was just like the most mind-blowing thing I'd ever seen. And then of course I went and watched 7 other videos that they have, and they're all incredible. But one of them that they did, they were inspired, the guy said, by Busby Berkeley. So I showed my students the music video, and it's the four of them on these like motorized scooters like in Japan, and they're shooting it, and it's like the most incredible video I've ever seen. It's all real, and he said it took them like 2 years in advance to plan out how they were going to make the video happen, but it's awesome. And the thing is, their videos are visually amazing, but then the music is catchy as hell. I love it. So I was listening to them yesterday for a couple hours without even looking at the videos. I was like, no, this music's pretty awesome. But so I'll say them. They have a video where they sing a song and they use the car as their instrument, and they have an obstacle course set up. The car basically like strikes different objects in time with the music. It's pretty awesome. If you have a chance, you should check it out. But yeah, so there, I'll say them.
Love it.
That's very intriguing. I like that. I never would have guessed something like that. I don't know what I would have thought, but I didn't know if it'd be, new or poppy or, hip hop or what it would be. So that was awesome.
I have a huge scope of musical, likes. I love all kinds of different music, and depending on the day and really depending on the mood, you might get a completely different. I mean, last week I was listening to like Lenny Kravitz for like 3 days straight. And before that, I think I was listening to, like, I was on a nostalgic kick, so I went off on like the Spice Girls for like a day. Like it just depends on my mood, or if I'm driving, that kind of thing. But I love music.
That sounds about like us around here.
So,
yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself. We're from South Dakota. Where are you from? We know you have 5 sisters. How did you, we know how you got into music. You started that young. How did you get into acting and performing and want to go down that too?
Wow, South Dakota. I was supposed to be there. I was on a tour, and we were going to tour the Midwest and Southeast, and I think a little bit of the Northeast, but I ended up leaving the tour before we got to the Dakotas. So I'm bummed, because at least I could have been like, I've been there. No, I can't.
Well, if you come, we'll show you around.
Nice. Yeah. I heard it's very cold there, but yeah, I'm actually from Philadelphia, PA. Yeah, that's where I grew up, and yeah, I have 5 sisters. I'm the 4th out of 6, and so acting for me started really young, and it was like, so music started at age 4, but I cannot remember a time that I didn't want to be in front of a camera. And like, I remember when my dad got our first like video camera, big clunky thing that we had in like the early 90s or whatever.
Yep.
And I remember the day he brought that home and, you know, he would just videotape everything in sight. And I just, you know, there's me jumping in front of every frame, every person, just being like, no, eyes on me, you know. And when I was young, I had, you know, my older siblings did theater in school. And I remember going to see their plays. And I was fascinated by the idea that, like, you could be my sister, but then on stage you could be this other person from like the 1800s and wear a costume and have an accent and be, you know, a completely different person for an hour and a half. I thought that was the coolest thing. And so I got into that just by watching, you know, them. And then there were little things, you know, I was fascinated with like Tina Turner and, Stevie Wonder when I was a kid, and so my parents would have me like perform little songs in front of company when we were over. So yeah, I just was always performing. It was just kind of just a part of who I was. And then I was fascinated with movies as well. Like I used to sneak downstairs like 3 or 4 in the morning on a school day. And this is at like 4 or 5 years old, by the way, and watch like Gone with the Wind was usually the one I picked most often, which is a really, as an adult looking back, I'm like, that's a very problematic choice. I'm pretty sure I could have picked a number of other movies that would have been better, but sure. Gone with the Wind. We'll go with that. Yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre. And it's a long movie. I mean, 3 hours, but I was intrigued by that whole world, and I love, and I still love, you know, old Hollywood and the actors and actresses from that time. And I loved it. And then, so that's where that started for me. And then going through school, you know, I began to notice, you know, when you do school plays that you have to be in, and I would be the only one taking them seriously. You know, my other friends would be like terrified of having to get on stage and like recite a poem. And I'm like, you better get on that stage. Like this is important, you know? And then when it got to the point in school where you had to audition for plays, I did that. And, you know, I started doing that, did that all through high school. And then I started doing community theater outside of school. And, you know, and then so at this point, I was still playing violin. I was up to about 6 hours a day of practicing. And the thought was I may go do that professionally. But I knew pretty quickly, I was like, look, this is not, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm not going to be a violinist. This is a hobby. So in middle school, about age 14, my parents were like, look, you should keep up your musical gifts. So why not try something else? So I said, okay, let's try singing. So I started doing that. It turns out I had probably the most talent in singing over everything else. So I did that all through middle school, all through high school. I actually got to tour in Europe. I got to do a tour with an orchestra, and then I got to sing opera over there as well, which is really awesome. And then college came, and it was like, you know, my parents are like, we think you should do this music thing. You're really good at it. And I'm like, I'm ready to pack the car up and go out to LA and take my chances. And they were like, absolutely not. So, so I went to college for musical theater, and I figured, you know, I could get the best of both worlds, and, you know, maybe I'll use musical theater to get my foot in the door. And I went to Ithaca College and studied musical theater, and I graduated. And then I moved to New York, and excuse me, and then I was performing, and I got cast in a national tour, and that's the tour that should have brought me to South Dakota. But I left the tour. Yeah, I left the tour before that. It was a wonderful experience. It was a 6-month tour, and, you know, it's children's theater, so that's another world in and of itself, because children they do not hold back when they have an opinion about you, and they will just tell you to your face. The show was, I don't know if you're familiar with, the musical is called Seussical the Musical. And it's a musical based on the characters of Dr. Seuss. And I play a character the name of the character is called the Sour Kangaroo. She's not nice by nature. And I would have these kids coming up to me after every show, "You're nasty. I don't like you." I just think that I think it's hysterical. I think that stuff is so funny because kids get so invested, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It was a great time. But so I did that, for about 6 months. And then I moved home. I was burned out. I was like, I gotta take a rest. So I came back home to Philly, and I had my daughter, who's now 13. Oh my goodness. And I've been here basically ever since. But, you know, when the time came after I had my kid, it was like, what are you going to do? Are you going to go back to New York? Are you going to do musical theater? What are you going to do? And I had to make some difficult decisions, and it was really hard. I had a really rough time after I moved back here. Because, you know, I made the choice. I decided, look, I'm going to be a mother first and an actor second. And I hadn't really had that choice before. So, quite often acting had to be put on the back burner in order for me to put food on the table and pay bills. Because something I was very determined to do was I want to live on my own. You know, I want to be in my own place with my own child and you know, really do that. I don't want to have to, you know, depend on my parents or live with them or whatever. So there were quite a few times where, you know, I was working regular 9 to 5, and in every industry you could possibly imagine, I have done it. And then would try to audition for things on the side. So it became this life of, you know, raising a kid, working a 9 to 5 and doing all of that during the day. And then at night going to rehearsal, sometimes with my child, sometimes not. And just my goal at that point was just let me stack, you know, credits on my resume. Let's just get as much work on there as possible, because someday when I have the freedom to really pursue it, I want people to look at that resume and say, well, she was still working all this time. She was still working. So I auditioned for everything and anything that I could. I auditioned for so many short films or student films or whatever, and just, you know, thousands of plays, everything that I could. And yeah, I mean, there were times where I was doing plays back to back, and I was in rehearsals 7 nights a week. So sometimes I'd be working with someone who would be like, yes, bring your kid. We get it. You know, we know how it is. And then other times I'd have to call in, you know, mom and dad and say, hey, can you babysit? But yeah, I just did, you know, as much as I could. And it wasn't easy. I had a very pretty heavy period of depression that followed, you know, making that decision to stay home, and lots of things happened, but, you know, I basically stuck with it. And then in 2018, like halfway through 2018, I was working as a barista making coffee, and I was like, you know what? All right. I think I'm ready to make this push to what I really want to do, to what I've always wanted to do. And I met someone who at the time was a friend of mine who's now my boyfriend. But at the time, I called him up and said, look, you know, I've seen you on TV, which means you either have an agent or a manager. Do you know if they're looking for new people? He said, yes. And so I met with her and I signed with a manager. And then within 3 months, I started booking some commercials. And that was really cool. And then I booked a TV show. I actually booked an episode of Jessica Jones on Netflix.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was awesome. And this was within the first 6 months. So I I went up to New York, did the whole thing, and I had lines. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be in the background. Like, I had lines, or cool. Did the whole thing, and then a couple months later, they called me and they said, Miss Priestley, oh, we're so sorry. We had to cut your part for time. And I was just like, because of course I did that cliche thing where I told everyone and anyone.
Oh,
so I was
yeah.
like, I'm going to be on Talk With Down. And then, of course, yeah. So that was a bummer. But by that point, I was like, whenever I don't get a part or whenever, something like that happens, to me, it's always been like, oh, but that means something bigger and better is coming. So I was bummed for like a day, and then I was like, wait, but that means something bigger and better is happening. So I can't wait to see what that is,
Yeah.
And then a couple months after that, I get an audition for a film, and I did that, and then I got the part, and that is Concrete Cowboy, which is coming out next year. So, yeah, that's been my journey. That's like the nutshell of my journey.
It was very well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, no, it was great because you went through, you talked a little bit about depression, and you've had a kid that you're raising throughout this whole time. And you, I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to deal with that kind of rejection and, trying to go through auditions and that kind of thing.
Working regularly, plus having to like work at night while you're balancing it all. What was like one thing that got you through every day that helped you to stay positive instead of being like, nope, that's it, I'm throwing in the rag? What was your key motivation there?
Well, I'd be lying if I said that there weren't days where I was just like, you know what, maybe the acting is not for me. Maybe I should just give this up. It's not working out. But I personally, I would always come back to the fact that, I get excited about a lot of things, but I don't get passionate about a lot of things. And for me, this was a passion that I'd had since I was a child, and it never wavered no matter what the situation, no matter what the circumstance. And I just always felt like, gosh, if I feel this strongly about something that I love, then I should stick with it. I should just see where and how far I can take this if I feel that strongly about it. Music, in some ways for me came a lot easier, but I never felt as passionate. And other things I tried, dance, all the other jobs that I did, there was a time where, my parents, and they were always very supportive in their own way, always, whenever I needed babysitting or whatever, they were there. But they always, they do the parent thing where they go, okay, you sure you want to do this? And they would always say to me through the years, well, try this job. You never know. Maybe you'll like this job, or maybe you'll, it's time to stop looking at jobs. You need to look at a career. Maybe you'll like this career instead. And I always tried to go into those things with an open mind. And within, the first 2 or 3 days, I'd be like, yeah, no, this is not the job for me. I know what I want to do. So I guess at the end of the day, it was just like, I always felt like, okay, no matter what I'm doing, this is all just going to be temporary until I get to what I want to do. Whether it takes a few months, whether it takes a few years, I'm going to do what feels right. It's just, I'm not ready yet. So I have to just wait. And the waiting is the hardest part, because if you've already decided in your head that you're going to do something, then the waiting is just, torture. Because you're just like, gosh, now how much longer? How much more money do I need to save? Or, how many more months until I can, have a job where I can just go to any audition I want to, and it's not a big deal. So, yeah, I think it was just a combination of all of those things. But for me, it was always like, this is just temporary. It's always temporary. And then, when I did finally make that push, it was like, okay, now. And if you're going to do it, you're going to do it 100%. You can't just I'll show up to some auditions. Like, no, you got to do it. You know what I mean? But I was ready. Once the opportunity came, I was like, yeah, this is it. You better not mess it up. So let's go. So yeah.
So you're, are you in Philadelphia now? Like, is that where you go to a lot of the auditions? Is there like a movie, TV scene there, or?
I am in Philly now. Yeah, it's COVID has really, like everyone else, it's put such a wrench in things.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because when we were filming the movie and everybody, was in my ear about, aren't you excited about what the potential opportunities might be and what doors this might open for you? And I'm still hoping that's the case. But, the buzz was, so when do you think you'll move to LA? Like, when do you think you'll be West Coast? And now that's all scrapped. And I have no idea, if I want to do West Coast or not. Philly, I would say the theater scene is huge here, and there's a lot of talented folks here, which is wonderful. But there's not a lot of movies happening here. We don't have the tax breaks that, LA and New York have, and which is silly because there's a lot of potential here. But I do think, 2019 was kind of a big boom for us. There were 3 different TV series that shot here with Jason Segel and Sally Field was another one, and I can't remember who the third one was. M. Night Shyamalan did one here. So we had 3 big productions come through in 2019, which is really huge for us. And then, of course, Concrete Cowboys shot here, which is really big. Okay. So I do hope that kind of puts Philly on the map as far as, that's a nice city to shoot in. But I would say we're still up and coming as far as, some of the bigger players.
So, I happen to have been a fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Is that shot there? Is it really anything like that?
It's not shot here. It's not shot here, which is such a shame. They shot the opening credits here, where they're just driving through the thing.
Yeah.
But the show itself is not shot here.
Why the hell would you do that?
I know. Rob McElhenney, he's from here. So I'm like, why would you wrote this story. You know what these people are like. Why on earth would you shoot it in LA? But I think for budget reasons they did that. But yeah, I'm bummed because I'm also a huge fan of that show. Huge. And a lot of the landmarks that they mention, or even the other bars that they mention, in the pub crawl things, those are all actual, Philly locations. And yeah, so it's accurate. Philly, we're not, how our sports fans are. We're not very nice. I don't include myself in that, but we're not very nice. So that show, I think, is frighteningly accurate. No, and then the other show that I think is so funny and accurate too is if you've ever watched The Goldbergs on ABC, mm-hmm. that is definitely 80s era Philadelphia suburb, to a T. And that's actually where I'm at. I'm not in the city. I'm in the suburbs. So every time they mention on that show, whenever they mention Jenkintown or the Willow Grove Mall, that's the mall I got my prom dress at. It's crazy to me. So that's exactly what my street, my community, that's exactly what we were like in the 80s, is what you see on Goldberg. It's scary how funny that is. But yeah, Philly's interesting. We're getting there in terms of people going, oh, okay, maybe we can set some more things in here. What was it? How to Get Away with Murder. They did a couple scenes here. I know the series was set in the Philly area. Not necessarily the names of certain things they changed on the show, but they did shoot some scenes in our area here too. So, any little bit that we can get on the map, I think is good for us.
So now when you shot Jessica Jones, is that out there, or did you have to live elsewhere to do some of those scenes? What did you say again? New York? Is that what you said?
It's shot in Brooklyn. They have a studio. Netflix has studios all in Brooklyn. And so no, I mean, you know, where I'm at, I'm just a hop, skip, and a jump away from New York. So I took the train up. I was there. I had to be there at 7 a.m. So I got a train at 5 a.m. But yeah, and then, you know, I'm able to just take the train up and hop on a subway and I'm there.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, you know, thank God I'm not too far. But I've had other things where, you know, I've called up a friend and said, look, I'm going to be in New York. I have to be in there for 4 or 5 days. Can I come crash with you? And then they go, yeah. So that's, you know, the benefit of having some actor friends in New York. They understand the spiel and they're always offering their couches. But normally I just, you know, I can just hop on a train and I'm up there. It's fine, except for when you have to do an audition in New York. And since COVID, I haven't had to do an in-person audition since COVID hit. All my auditions are self-taped. But it used to be, you know, you'd go all the way up there and then get in the room just to say, what do you mean he has a gambling problem? Thank you. And that's it. And then they're like, thank you. And then you go home. You're like, it took me half a day to get up here. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah. So now you have a 13-year-old. That's the same age as our oldest daughter. She turns 13 on Monday. What does she think of mom being an actress? I know, it's so crazy to have this teenager already in our house.
But teenage years, man, buckle up. It's a ride.
So now,
and she's looking at me because she's in the other room right now. But I will go on record as saying I had the sweetest little toddler girl, and now I've got this mouthy teenager. No, it's wonderful. She's hilarious. I think it's kind of funny that she gets to kind of brag, but until the movie comes out, it means nothing because it's just sure, your mom was in with Idris Elba, and I know Santa. It's okay, well, yeah, that means nothing. When I had a couple commercials playing, that was interesting because then I think she got a lot more. Wait a minute, was that your mom on TV? Or Cynthia, I saw your mom in a commercial. She played a cop. That's really funny type of stuff. But
that's awesome. Yeah,
she just walked by me. She goes, "I am a wonderful teenager."
So she gets to be kind of your number one cheerleader along for the ride with you, getting to watch as your, career is starting to blossom and grow. And it's she's at the perfect age where she can experience it with you.
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious because I think, it's one of those things I've been talking about forever. And, she's seen me do stage stuff, but for her to be her dad is actually a New York based actor as well. So she said there have been times when she's been up there in New York or with, family down south on vacation, and they'll have the TV on, and there goes my face, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, it's my mom!" That is hilarious to me that she can be "That's my mom." I think that's hysterical. So yeah, she doesn't seem to mind. I think it's nice that she gets to brag a little bit. I definitely I've got cool points among her friends. They're the right age group because in the movie, my son is played by Caleb McLaughlin from Stranger Things. And all the little 13-year-old girls in her class are just in love with Caleb McLaughlin. So that, more than Idris, more than anything else, has made me kind of the cool mom is oh, you got to touch Caleb McLaughlin? I'm yes, I did. I sure did.
Well, I kind of understand what you're saying. It's not anywhere near your caliber, but I do some radio advertising around here, and I do some of my own commercials, and so my kids will hear it on the radio and they get excited, and they used to more, and then their friends are like, oh yeah, I heard your dad on the radio. And so like facetiously I'm saying like it's super awesome that you're on commercials. And I remember like when one of my little radio commercials come on, I was all turning it up and being giddy about it. And
Yeah, well, it's like, it's kind of cool, right? I mean,
yeah, her friends thought I was kind of neat.
Yeah, like my first commercial that I did, I'm buying a car online with a friend, although we never really established. I'm like, why are two friends buying a car? Is she my girlfriend? Like, what's happening here? We don't know. We're two people sitting at the kitchen table buying a car. Sure. Okay. But, you know, like we're speaking in rhyme, and it's the commercial itself, it just made no sense. But when that commercial came out, for like the first week that it was playing, I just felt like the biggest celebrity. And, you know, and I think I only saw the commercial like on YouTube, like between like videos type of thing. But I just felt like such a celebrity. I was like, oh my goodness, it's my face. Like, and like, you know, people on Facebook be like, oh my gosh, I saw you. And like, yeah, it's, you know, and now looking back, I'm like, that was nothing.
No, it's the celebrating the small victories. It is celebrating every one of those steps that you accomplished in life. And that is amazing. You have to woohoo all of those little things.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, ultimately for me, it is a sign of something. It's the sign of that, you know, perseverance and all of it. So, you know, yeah, it made me incredibly happy. It's just so funny when, you know, like, people from high school that like I didn't really talk to all that much are now suddenly on Facebook like, hey, I saw your commercials. So you're like an actor now? And you're like, yes, I am. It's cool. It's still cool for like a minute.
Right. And absolutely, you should rejoice in those moments.
Yeah. I think so.
So now you're about to be one of the largest, biggest celebrities ever to touch the earth. And you are going to be in the next, or in a Netflix movie coming out maybe somewhere in January, February 2021, Concrete Cowboys. Yeah. Tell us all the deets on that movie.
Well, which deets? I mean, there's so many. I could tell you the audition deets. I could tell you what the movie is about. I mean, there's so many deets. I don't know. There's so many. It's such an incredible thing. I want to write a book. Like, I just want to write a book.
The whole experience must have been fantastic.
It was. I mean, you know, like I said, I had been auditioning and stuff, but you know, and I did audition for a couple films, but they didn't come through. And you know, I don't know if when I auditioned, if my manager knew at the time that Idris was involved. If she didn't know, I think it was wise on her part, you know, if she did know, rather, I think it was wise on her part not to tell me right away, because I think it would have just thrown me off. But, you know, when she sent me the script to audition with and everything, she just was very like, oh, you know, movie, your audition's on Friday, you know, something about Cowboys, Philadelphia, have fun. I was just like, okay. And I remembered, like, hearing something about a cowboy movie and something about Idris Elba in a cowboy movie, but I didn't, like, it didn't click for me. And when I was preparing to audition, you know, the script that they gave me, at that point, because the character has changed a bit, but at that point, you know, it said in the description, it said, this character, it looks like she's lived a hard life, or she looks like she's lived a hard life. I was like, really? Like, I said to my manager, I said, is it all right if I go in there looking a little rough? Because I didn't think that I had, like a real chance to be in the movie of any sort, no matter what the level of budget was or whatever. I just didn't think I had enough experience. But I wanted the casting person to see that I could play a serious role, because she'd always called me in for, you know, the kind of like commercials. I call them like Target moms or like Walmart moms, but you know what I'm talking about. Like the very happy, like,
soccer
who's
mom.
ready for school? It's like, who's got soccer practice? Like those ones.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I can do those very easily, but I wanted her to see like, oh, Liz can do some serious stuff too. So I said, you know, is it all right if I do a little method? It's all right if I look a little beat up? And she said, yeah, go for it. So I did. And I can't say everything that I did in preparation, but I looked bad. I stayed up for like 3 days straight. I had a lot of caffeine. And I ran lines for like hours upon hours a day. Cause the other thing, they sent me like 4 different scenes to audition with, which is rare. I might get 2 pages and I might say 2 or 3 things total. But this was 4 different scenes and they were like, please be memorized, you know, please be ready to do any of these 4. And I was like, all right. And they were intense scenes. And the very first one was like, I'm getting evicted out of my apartment. Like it was, you know, I'm there with a cop, and I can say this because this is not in the movie. But you know, I'm there with a cop, and he's basically like, you got 10 minutes to grab what you can, and then we lock these doors and you're out. And I think elsewhere in the script it said that, you know, my character was a drug addict and she needed to go to rehab, and that's why her son was leaving, or why she needed to take him to his father, because she was just a mess. So so I made sure I looked like a mess, and I was a mess. And I went in there crying. Like I went into the audition room crying, which I don't normally do. And you know, and I would sit there on the couch waiting for my turn, just crying in the waiting room. And like people would be near me and they'd be having conversations with each other around me and just kind of pretending like there wasn't this emotional ball of a woman just bawling her eyes out in the corner. Wow. Yeah, but so I did that. I did the first audition. I left and I felt good about it. And then like a day or 2 later, they were like, we want you to come back. And so I had to do the whole thing again. I had to stay up. This is like, they called me on a Friday to say your audition's on Monday. So I had to stay up the whole weekend and have just massive amounts of caffeine and just running lines and just, you know, doing the whole thing. And I go in there again and I'm crying, and I did it again. And they said, thank you so much. And I left. And then a couple of days after that, they called me and they say, we want you to bring you in again. But this time the director would like to meet you. And at that point I was like, hang on, what is this? Like, what is this? Because I was like, what is this movie? You know, and I did a little deep dive at that point. And that's when I realized, I'm like, this is the cowboy movie that I've been reading about that Idris Elba's doing. So I go back and I read in the script and I'm like, okay, it's about a 15-year-old boy, obviously. So Idris isn't playing the boy. I think Idris is playing the father. I think this is for his wife. And then I go, well, I'm definitely not going to get the part now because they're not going to give an unknown actress with no film credits to her name, no experience in front of camera as far as they can tell, a part opposite Idris Elba. Like, there's no way. So I actually laughed about it. I was like, oh, well, they must be looking for a stand-in for, I don't know, Kerry Washington or something. Like, they're not going to give it to me. So I was like, all right, pressure's off, no worries. And that's when I get a call from my manager. And basically, as it was explained to me, there was a little bit of a behind-the-scenes action going on where, you know, because again, this is pre-COVID. So the producers were like, we should go with a name actress, a Kerry Washington or whoever, so we can guarantee butts and seats. That's what we want. And the director was like, I've seen this girl on video. I like her. I'm flying out to Philly. I'm going to meet her. And if she does it again, I'm going with her. We go with her. This is how it was explained to me. And I was just like, he said that? And they're like, yeah, he wants you. Wow. I was like, okay. So I go in the third time and I do the whole thing, stayed up a couple days, did the whole caffeine thing, and I looked like a mess. But at this point, word had also gotten to me that they were changing the character slightly, and that she was no longer going to be a drug addict, that she was no longer going to be homeless, and they were rewriting it. And I panicked because I was like, is it because I'm not doing, like, is there something I'm not doing correctly? Like, am I not selling it? Oh, and I forgot to mention, I changed my speech pattern for the audition as well. Because, you know, she's Detroit. She's a hard-living Detroit woman, and I am clearly a very, you know, bougie-sounding suburban Philly girl. So I was like, I need to fix this. So I had spent like 16 hours listening to this girl review like episodes of Love and Hip Hop Hollywood on YouTube, and I formed my speech pattern around her. So I didn't even sound like myself either. So I panicked. I was like, am I doing something wrong? And they were like, no, do what you're doing. Just do it again. You know, my manager was like, just go in there, wear the same exact thing, do the same exact thing. You know, don't worry about it. So I go in, and this time I get there and they're like, oh, you know, 1 second, director's just taking a phone call. He'll be right with you. It's okay. And I sat on that couch for 45 minutes sobbing, waiting for the guy to come out and be like, okay, come on in. Literally, like at one point, the casting person walked by me and she's like worried about me. She's like, okay, don't cry yourself out. It should be another 5 minutes, maybe top. I don't know. Just don't cry yourself out. And I'm like, okay. We're just like, you know, but it was like, you know, panic. It's adrenaline. You know, I'm like, don't worry, I'm not going to cry myself out, like, because I'm scared. Like, I'm legit scared. I want this part bad now. So, you know, 45 minutes later, he comes out. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Come on in. So I do the scene and I finished, and he came over to shake my hand. It was the first time I cracked a smile, and he was just like, oh my goodness, she smiles. And I was like, no, I'm very nice. I promise. I'm actually very nice. But it was really cool. And I remember going out of there being like, you know, if nothing else, I was able to, you know, in front of a Hollywood director, do my thing and feel good about it. And then, you know, the next day they called me and they were like, you got the part. And I was just like, it didn't even register. I was just like, thank you so much. That's so nice. Thanks. You know? And it was like, I hung up and I go to call my parents, and they were away on a cruise. So it took a couple hours of me being like, I know you're in the middle of the ocean. Please call me. I have news. Please call me. Please. You know, and then they finally get back to me. It was like, as I was telling my mom I got the part, that's when I kind of started crying, because that's when it hit. It was like, oh my gosh, holy crap, I'm gonna do this. Oh my goodness, like, oh my gosh, you know. And my parents, bless their hearts, they were even like, oh, that's nice, that's great, you know. Like, it took all of us a while, you know, to really have it sink in. Like, this is a big deal. Like when they called me to be like, hi, we need you to report to horse camp on Monday. I was like, excuse me? Like, you know, that's when it kind of sunk in. And then, you know, I had a couple weeks to just freak out and panic completely, during which time they rewrote the script and they gave me the new copy. So now she's a professional. She's a nurse, and she's just a woman who's at the end of her rope and is like, I've done all I can for you. I think you need your father in your life. So that's kind of, you know, she sets in motion this whole story. And then of course, yeah, I go to horse camp, which is hilarious. And, you know, and then I show up on set for my first day. And, you know, normally during the audition process, at some point you would have met your other actors to make sure, you know, Idris isn't too tall when we're standing next to her or next to each other, or that, you know, Caleb and I actually look like mother and son, or, you know, whatever. But none of that actually happened. So my first day on set was my first day meeting the two of them. And of course, you know, up until then, my manager is just like, now remember, Idris Elba is just a man. He's just another actor, and you were there to do a job. I'm like, yeah, right. He's just a man, sure. And of course, then, you know, I show up, I get there, and they're like, let's take you to your trailer. Like, I had a trailer. I still can't get over that. And, you know, and then I get to the set, and I turn around, and I hear, Mom! And I look, and Caleb McLaughlin, 17-year-old Caleb McLaughlin, who's like a foot taller than me in 4-inch heels, is just like running at me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is my life? It was so crazy. You know, so he runs at me, gives me a big hug, and then they immediately put us up on a horse together. And, you know, so I'm in the back and I'm holding on to him for dear life. And, you know, and he was just so sweet. He was just like, don't worry, Mom, I got you. Don't worry, you're safe up here. I got you. You're going to be okay. I got it, Mom. I got everything under control. And I'm just like, okay. You know? And then, so they get us up there, and then they pull up our horse to where this other horse was just chilling. And I look over to my right, and a foot away from me is this man just smiling at me and just giving me a once-over and smiling at me. And I was just like, I look at Idris Elba, and I go, well, hello, husband. And he goes, well, hello, wife. And I was like, I'm going to fall off this horse. I'm going to fall off this horse. Like, it's crazy. I'm smiling now to think about it, because it was just like, oh my gosh, he called me his wife. His real life wife was there too. She's like off camera. So I was like, hello.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. I had basically had like a day and a half with Idris, and I had about 5 days with Caleb, 4 or 5 days, and it was delightful. I mean, it was absolutely delightful. Idris Elba is, first of all, he is absolutely that gorgeous up close. Like, it's not even fair. You're just like, where's your flosser? Like, honestly. He's definitely that, but he's so charming and so sweet. Like, he said to me at one point, he's like, so what would I know you from? What other things have you been in? And I said, no, this is my film debut. And he literally, like, he put his hand over his heart, and he's like, I get to be in your film debut? I was just like, are you serious? Like, are you serious? I used to be sitting here being like, oh my gosh, I get to make my film debut with you? And he's just like, no, I'm honored. Like, what? Yeah. He was, I can't even say enough nice things about him. He's just the coolest. And he and Method Man, who's also in this movie, who is also so cool. He and Method Man would be sitting there just freestyle rapping and like hanging out with the Cowboys and just like shooting the breeze. I just thought that was the coolest thing. Like, these are not the guys that are like, let me go sit in my trailer until I'm needed. They were just like, I'm going to sit out here with everybody and, you know, just talk and hang out. And it was so wonderful. And then, of course, Caleb he was 17 when we shot. I don't know where he gets the energy from, because it was like between takes he's breakdancing or just like racing people or playing basketball, and I'm just like exhausted, like in a corner, like, you know. But I learned a lot watching Caleb. I really learned a lot. You forget almost how young he is. Mm-hmm. Because he's such a pro and he's so good. Like, he goes toe to toe with Idris Elba. Like, it's nothing. It's incredible. I mean, you know, I had one emotional scene with Idris Elba, and I was just like kicking myself, because normally in my acting, if I want to cry, I can cry at the drop of a hat. But that day, I couldn't get the tears to come, because I was like, it's Idris Elba, it's Idris Elba. Like, I couldn't get the crying happening the way I wanted it to. And then, but I'm watching Caleb and Idris do their scenes, and Caleb's just leaving it all out on the table. Like, he's just raw with it, and I love it. Like, he's just so good. He's very underrated. And we got to bond a little bit because it's his film debut also. And so we, and the director too, he's only done short films. This is his first feature. So the three of us really kind of, we had some moments where we were like, are you excited about this? Like, you're going to blow up. Are you ready? Like, are you ready? So it was cool. The whole experience was amazing. It was, if I never do another movie, which, I mean, I hope to God I do, but if I never do another one, I will always have this just incredible experience. And I get to, I'm not somebody who likes to brag, but I do feel that I get to brag a little bit at, like, I made my film debut not as like shopper number 4 in the background or whatever, but I'm in scenes with Idris Elba. Like, that's awesome. I'm happy about that. I'm proud a little bit.
That's amazing. I mean, it really is a great story how you come all the way around back to this. And for what it's worth, you actually are our first interview with an actress or an actor or anything like that. So this is our debut with you.
Debuts all around. I'm loving it. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're all about
thing when you do something for the first time. It's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I
love it.
It's very unique how this has evolved, and you heard a little bit in the intro when we started that this is also our 50th episode, and when we started this, we bought one cheap microphone off of Amazon, and then we decided to buy a mixer and invest a little more, and fast forward 12 months later, and here we are interviewing someone like you and meeting all these people and connections and relationships. It's just, I don't know, it's crazy. I feel like we've known you for forever already, talking to you like this. So
I know, I love it. Yeah, well, to get me started talking, it's like, okay, Liz, we gotta wrap it up. Like, stop it. It's time. We're done. But no, it's, and I love telling this story because, it meant so much to me. I'm just happy there's people who want to hear it. I mean, that's awesome.
Definitely. And I checked out the trailer, so the trailer is at least released out there, and people can check you out on IMDb. But is there other ways? Have an
actual trailer now? Is there an actual trailer now? Because I haven't. I've been like on Google every day, just trying to find every little bit about it that I could. Mm-hmm. That's the one thing about COVID that has really been such a struggle with all of this. I'm getting information in piecemeal, which is so frustrating. But the last thing I saw was the clip from the movie where Caleb sees the horse in the house. Is there a separate clip?
Yeah, that's all. I think that's what was IMDb. So I wasn't sure if that was a trailer or what they consider that.
I think they're calling it one for now, and then I think closer to its release, Netflix is going to have an actual trailer. But I love that clip. It sets the tone for the whole movie. There's a horse in your house.
It was good.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I'm really excited too because actually just this week, last week, a story came out in our paper about the stables that we shot our movie at, because we did use actual cowboys in our movie. Because I didn't even say the movie. I take my son out of Detroit to his dad, but he doesn't know that his dad is this leader of a group of black cowboys in present day Philadelphia. And the thing about this movie that I'm excited about is that people don't know that the black cowboys are a real thing. They are absolutely real. And as a Philly girl, I've seen them now. Prior to this movie, I was like, huh? But now that I've done it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's one. But we shot at Fletcher Street Stables, and a bunch of their cowboys played cowboys in our movie. And just last week, an article came out that Fletcher Street is losing like pretty much all of its funding, and they have to close a bunch of their stables, and like how disappointed they are because, you know, they've had articles written and they have this movie coming out, and yet money's not coming in. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need this movie to come out right now so we can save these people, because I'm just so heartbroken. But yeah, it's such a shame because they're such a great group, and there are stables like this. I mean, really, if you look it up, there are stables like this in every major city in the U.S. And we've been here forever. They've been around since the Civil War. It's just that people don't really know about them because the funding isn't there. So yes, I hope they can hang on until the movie comes out, and then I hope when people see it and they go, oh my goodness, is this a real thing? And they get on Google, I hope that, you know, it helps them so much. Yeah, that's my hope.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure if anybody that's listening happens to be a large fan of that, of horses and stuff, then you can just Google those guys and send them a big fat check.
Please do. They deserve it. They're wonderful. Yeah. They are wonderful, really. Yeah, and we have one of the Cowboys is making his film debut. He plays a major role in it, and he's never been in front of a camera before, and he's excellent. Like, I'm so excited for this movie. I can't wait. No matter what happens with me, I'm just excited for people to be like, oh my gosh, Black Cowboys, this is awesome.
Yes, I'm excited for it too. I can't wait to see it, and then we'll be able to go, oh my gosh, she was on our podcast. Can you believe that?
Yes, and it's not like a blink and you'll miss it type of thing. I have like major scenes. This is happening, guys. It's happening.
Ooh, now maybe you can't talk about it, but did you have to smooch him at all?
Do you know what's so funny? There was not a smooch written in the thing. Ooh. And then our big scene where, you know, something like that could happen. I, being the consummate professional that I am, I stuck to what was in the script because I felt like I shouldn't ruffle feathers and just be that person. Yeah. And then the next day we had a night shoot and we were holding for a thunderstorm, and I'm standing next to the director and he says to me, oh, I'm surprised you didn't go for a smooch yesterday. And I just stared at him like mouth agape, like, what are you talking about? There wasn't anything written in the script. He's like, yeah, no, I just figured you might just go for it. And I was just like, I didn't know I could. What? I didn't know I could. Do-overs. We can do-overs. You have power to call for a do-over, right? He was like, no. I was like, So, no, there is not a smooch in there, and I am upset. But it doesn't... I think when you see the movie, you'll see why a smooch actually doesn't really fit there. I can see why they took it out because it kind of implies something else is happening that isn't. And I was like, yeah, I see why they didn't put it in there. But I was mad. I was like, are you telling me I could have just done one take where like, let's try something different?
Well, live and learn, right? They're all about teachable moments.
I was like, okay, so now I know when you're on a film, feel free to improvise because they are kind of expecting you to, apparently.
Yeah, listen up, world. Go for the smooch when you can.
I know, and I'll be honest, there was one take, and I don't know for sure if this is true, but there was one take where I thought he might have been going in for a kiss. And it was like, you know, the slightest tilt of the head type of thing, but I full on panicked and like turned my head fully the other way and was like, I'm not ready. I can't, you know? So I'm pretty sure there was one take where we could have, and I definitely was like, like I was so scared. I was scared. So that makes it worse. My boyfriend will, to this day, has not let me live that down.
Right.
He's just like, come on, Liz. We both have our one. You had the opportunity. You just didn't take it. I'm like,
That's what I was just thinking about. Everybody has that little list.
Yes, we all have a one. And he was like, but you best leave because he's an actor too. So he was like, you best believe if I ever get on a set with Halle Berry, I'm gonna take my opportunity. And I'm like, you say that, but you don't know what you'll do under pressure.
Yeah, that would be really intimidating. I mean, talk about your story too is overcoming so many different things that, some people are nervous about just, going out in public or going and meeting people at work. And I mean, you're going to be in front of potentially millions of people, and what must have gone through your head and all that. You just, what a story of overcoming and sticking with it. And God, you've done so much in your life. You toured Europe. I mean, what the French toast? I never thought. You've been in Europe already, and I sure hope I can go there for $20,000 a day once.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty awesome. I hope, one day I'll get to, maybe write some memoirs and get to tell some fun stories. But it's, I'll tell you this last thing, but I got to chit chat with Idris between takes, and I said to him, I was like, I have to tell you this because it's ironic, but this is absolutely true. A year before we shot the movie, I had a rare free weekend to myself. My daughter was away, and I was like, I'm going to go to the movies because I like taking myself out and this is like, I don't know if they have these where you guys are, but if you have Movie Tavern or something similar where you can recline in the seat, you can get food and a cocktail. And I was like, yeah, that's my kind of movie watching experience. So I went to the movies. I have a cocktail. I'm laying back and I'm watching The Mountain Between Us with Idris Elba and Kate Winslet. And I remember, because, unfortunately the movie did not do too well. And I was like one of the few people in the theater. And I said out loud, because there were not that many people around, man, I really hope I get to work with Idris Elba one day. It would be so cool. And then it was literally 1 year and 1 week later that we were sitting there and I was telling him that story. And I told him that, and he just was looking at me wide-eyed. He was like, that really happened? I was like, I swear to you, I still have the movie stub, the ticket stub. Because I was like, no, I can never throw this away now. Because I remember, and I had the date on there. And I was like, oh my goodness, it's been a year and a week. And now I'm sitting here doing what I said out loud.
Wow.
So
you manifested that shit.
Speak it out into the universe. That's my thing. Speak it out. If you want to make it happen, say it out loud, because once you say it out loud, it has to happen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can't, it's not like you can tell people, oh, I'm writing a screenplay. And you can't just not do it. People now know about it. There's expectations. You put that out there. That means things are going to have to happen. And I fully believe when you say things like, oh, I want to work with blah, 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 or I want to do such and such. When you say that stuff out loud, it means it's a certain determination that you're calling out to make that happen. And I was just like, I'm here. And I spoke your name out loud, and he was just like, that's wild.
Yeah,
that's wild.
And this is only the beginning of those all taking off now for you.
I hope so. I mean, I hope so. And it's like, COVID, man, we're so close, and yet it's like, okay, all right. But then that just means something bigger and better is happening. I don't know what our industry is going to look like. I don't know how we're going to overcome this, but, we're going to figure out stuff, and it's going to be good, and I hope to be a part of it. So I hope so, but,
well,
I guess we'll find out after, January, February. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, at least you shot it and the hard work's done, and now they just have to release it, and then all those affirmations will fly in and other offers, and you can manifest all sorts of other good stuff, and then hopefully you'll do a bunch of follow-up episodes with us because we were so neat.
Yeah.
You won't forget about us.
No, I can never forget about you guys. This has been these podcasts have been so amazing, and I've gotten to meet such amazing people. And like I said, this is a different side to the industry. So it's been this has been so delightful and enjoyable for me, just getting to know people on this side of it. So I have like a little chart going. I've written down everybody's names, and like I make sure I got like emails and everything. And yeah, because I want to take everybody with me to the top. There's as many people as I can anyway. So,
we'll ride your coattails any day.
I'm riding yours, so we'll ride each other's coattails.
Yeah, we'll ride each other's. Ride each other's until I get Method Man on this show, because that would be crazy. Wu-Tang.
I need a do-over with Method Man, because I talked to him for like 20 minutes and then walked away and then realized that it was Method Man. Like I didn't realize in the moment that it was him, and I spent 20 minutes fangirling to Method Man over Idris Elba. Like, how embarrassing. I was like, this man probably is like this girl. Oh my gosh, this girl.
We had that talk the other day.
I literally walked up to him and I was like, really? I just got to stand there and Idris Elba. And then like he just geeked out. And he was so sweet. He was like, oh, that's great. Yeah, that's good for you. That's awesome. Yeah, all right. And then I got to my car and I was like, oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Who did I just talk to? That was Method Man. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord.
Just wait till everybody's saying that about you.
Oh man. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Wouldn't
that be hilarious?
It will be. You just manifest it right now. It will be.
I hope so. Yes, I'm manifesting it. One day, people are going to be asking me for my autograph.
Yeah, send me one. Send us one. We'll take one.
Awesome.
Liz, you've been absolutely amazing. This has been a really good episode. It's our 50th, and I'm glad you could be a part of it. And it's your debut and our debut, and with you, and we're all debuting it up. And yeah, so check this out on Netflix, January, February-ish, early 2021, Concrete Cowboys, because your episode, Liz, is going to come out with us December 16th, so we're going to have, awesome. Yeah, we're going to have good playtime with this, and we'll attach all the good stuff and take all the good stuff so people can, track you down and see how cool you are themselves, so.
I cannot wait to
awesome. What was that?
I cannot wait to see the movie. I'm so excited to see your debut.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I'm so excited too. This is gonna be, it's gonna be wild. I'm gonna watch it one time, and then after that, I'm gonna be like, I can never see it again. I can't see my face. But no, I'm excited too. And when I get a firm date for the release, I'll try to make sure I let you guys know. I'm trying to make sure I let everyone that I have spoken to know as soon as I know when this is actually coming out. So I'll keep you posted.
Yeah, definitely. We want to keep helping promote it and, ride each other's coattails like we said, so then we can resend this back out to the world when it's getting close.
I love it. That sounds like a plan. Yay.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining the Positively Midwest vault of family members that you're now a part of, and our first actress. And this was a really awesome experience.
Thank you guys so much. It was absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you. This was monumental, if you will, for us.
See what you did there. I see it.
Yep. Oh, beautiful. Well, thank you again, Liz. I will get you a copy of this ASAP. I can email it over to you so you can have a sneak preview and jam it out with whoever you'd like to. And then, like I said, it'll come out the 16th. Everybody check her out. And, the movie, Concrete Cowboys. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
You bet. Have a wonderful week and Christmas there in Philadelphia.
Yes, you too in South Dakota. Stay warm where you guys are. Oh, boy.
Well, it's 40-ish lately, and here it's usually about 20, if not colder, and a lot of snow. So actually, this is like South Dakota short weather.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have no snow right now, which is very, very strange for us.
Yeah, we're supposed to get it this weekend.
December, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, see, look, you talked it up. Now you're getting No. I do not like snow. That's one thing. I don't like it.
Well, make sure you come
But
visit
so far,
us.
none for us either. What's that?
Make sure you come visit us in the summer then, and we'll
Yes,
show you
I'm
all the
like-
cool stuff.
I gotta come for the swimming weather. That's what I'll be there for.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, thanks
Cool.
again, Liz.
Well,
we
thank
appreciate you.
guys.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Absolutely. You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, Mrs. Durant.
My mind is blown. We have met some amazing individuals again lately, and what an opportunity it was to talk to Liz. I mean, she's up and coming. She's making her debut in a Netflix film. Like, how crazy is that?
Yes, it is super amazing and super crazy. And so Concrete Cowboys, check it out on Netflix. We'll be posting about it as it gets closer, and there's more trailers and things like that, because it is pretty cool. We got to catch somebody up and coming in that situation. So hopefully you found some positivity and some inspiration throughout this. You can see that no matter what you want to go for in your life, everybody has ups and downs. She was barista?
Yeah, she was being a barista when she finally got this audition in 2018. She started doing commercials and stuff. And so she's definitely gone through the hard times of being that struggling actor, trying to figure out, her game there while being mom and everything else. So she's definitely, overcoming all those obstacles.
Yeah. So you can overcome these obstacles. You can never give up, never surrender. Keep taking the action and stay positive. You never know what's going to happen. And manifestation can be very powerful. So
Yeah. And in the words of Liz Priestley, something bigger and better is coming. So stay positive.
ooh, doggy, close her out.
Absolutely.
Thank you all from the bottom of our hearts for listening to the Positively Midwest podcast. Our hope is to inspire, engage each other's thoughts, and leave you with some great advice. Be sure to join our Facebook group and follow us on Instagram at Positively Midwest Podcast. Make sure you like, comment, share, and screenshot our podcast with all of your cool friends. Every little bit helps. We are on most all major platforms, and you can stream it on our website at positivelymidwest.com. And thank you, and as always, stay positive.